welcome to another live episode of Florida Gun Supply's every Monday night gathering of Second Amendment believers from all across the country. I'm Andy Hallinan, your host for tonight's evening, and we are already breaking records all across Florida Gun Supply's channels. Hit the thumbs up if you are excited to be here, and if you are excited to hear about what we are about to display. Take a look.
I don't own a gun shop. I lead a movement.
Andy Hallinan.
Andy Hallinan.
Andrew Hallinan, the owner of that Florida Gun Supply store.
It's not just about guns for us. It's about life and liberty.
The solution to violent crime is for good guys like you and I to unite, to get armed, get trained, and carry daily.
This guy's educated.
He's an educated guy.
He's speaking the truth. Took so much weight off my shoulders.
We're the kind of patriots you've always wanted to be. Join us.
Welcome to another great Monday night here. I'm your host, Andy Hallinan, the leader of a Second Amendment movement from across this country designed to unite Americans, just like you and I, to come together to get armed, get trained, and carry daily. Our goal tonight is not to come together and cast stones or cause a ruckus. Our goal tonight is to encourage this country to stand up, to stop allowing criminals into our homes, our businesses, and our churches, to stand up together against violent crime of all type. And what you are about to see tonight is the revealing of security footage from over a year ago from a situation that happened right here at home. And if you support Second Amendment concealed carry, hit the thumbs up button right now. We are at 130 viewers on Facebook alone. Thanks in part to huge followers like Kevin Hauser, Jacob Novotny, Robert Gwynn, Lenai Karstens, Kevin and Scott Howley. Guys, we are coming together to build a Second Amendment community that is based not on a desire to want to stand up and be all cool carrying guns. We don't want to brag about situations that we find ourselves in, but what we do want to do is leave a community that is better, that is safer, and that is a much better place to be and to live for our children. And if enough people come together to unite, to get armed, get trained, and carry daily, we can make this area of Florida and where you are the safest place in this country to live.
The movement of Florida Gun Supply is to arm and train as many people as we can so that now will be a safer America to live in, but the America that our children and our grandchildren live in will be safer.
Guys, tonight I am joined with my good friend, supporter, and volunteer here at Florida Gun Supply, my good friend Brian Sharp. Brian's and my relationship goes way back. My first ever student and class was Doug Doty, the owner of High Octane, but very shortly thereafter, Brian Sharp came and took my concealed carry class years ago. In fact, I sold my first ever firearm to Brian Sharp, and he's here tonight joining me. And guys at home, I know you can't do a round of applause, but I do want you to hit the thumbs up button right now, because what Brian is about to go through tonight is difficult. We've already been getting death threats and people on Facebook being angry about what we're about to talk about, but that's par for the course when we're dealing with people that randomly will attack random strangers in the middle of gas station parking lots. So Brian, thank you for being here. It's a very difficult thing that you're doing. Why don't you start out by letting everybody on Facebook know why now? Why are we going to be talking about this tonight, a year later?
Because I actually felt like it was necessary to bring closure to something that was pretty traumatic in my life, that, you know, that I wanted to hope that this would bring closure to what I experienced over a year ago.
Brian, Raymond Val says, keep up the good work, brothers. Gabriel Novotny says, hey, Brian. Tim Farrell says, hey, Brian. And Alex Jr. says hello as well. Brian, when you say closure, right, when you say that word closure to what's happening and what happened, what exactly do you mean by closure? You know, what is that? What does that mean for you?
Just closing another chapter, putting this behind me, and just moving forward being a good community supporter and helping wherever I can, whenever I can.
And Brian, what is it? We're going to be going over the exact details of exactly what happened in a few minutes, and we're going to go through the security footage. But a lot of people have messaged or comment, and they're saying things like, Brian is working in a gun shop and volunteering in a gun shop because he's proud of situations that have happened. How has this situation affected your life?
Well, that's far from the truth. When I took my concealed carry class with you years ago, I never intended to actually have to use my firearm. What I intended was to have it in the event that I ever needed it. And that actually came into play on January 15th, 2017. And from that point forward, I said to myself, it's just like always. Everybody always says, it's better to have something and not need it than need it and not have it.
Absolutely. Nick Barrett says, the right of the citizens to bear arms, he basically, and the lawful self-defense of him is absolute. He does not drive in from the state or government, is one of the high powers delegated directly to the citizens. Alex Malandando says, I'm glad you protect yourself. Joe Sprague says, awesome class. Thanks to you guys. I really learned so much from you both. Again, thank you. And Dalton Pollard again says, hello. Kevin Hauser says, we've got your six, Brian and Andy. And Hunter McPherson says, he wasn't a stranger. What do you have to say to that?
Wasn't a stranger? That night at the gas station, it was like, actually it was a pretty normal day. Started off hanging out with the kids and grandkids at a barbecue. And just as a quick reminder to everyone that at any given time, absolutely everything can change. The wife and I stopped in that Circle K here in Inverness to do nothing more than grab a cup of coffee and a Redbox movie. And inside of, I think, total time there was 13 to 14 minutes total. Everything took a turn for the worst. So anytime, any day in your normal passing, that things can go from perfectly normal to flipped upside down.
Now, Brian, we're watching security footage. We just, I'm going to rewind this for everybody to see. This is Brian and his wife walking into the Circle K in downtown Inverness. The timestamp at the bottom says it is 12:04 a.m. They walk to the right of the camera here, and basically that would be the left if you're walking in, and they go over to the coffee machine. Now, you guys are over at the coffee machine. I think when we were going over this earlier for about 4 minutes straight. At what point did you notice something unusual?
Right after making our coffee and walking back over to the cash register, I had small talks with the clerk at the store because I knew him. I knew all of them there, and I was small talking with him in regards to just everyday life. And then I had mentioned about buying scratch off, and he says, "Well, it's after midnight. If you win on them, you can't cash them in anyways." So I had changed my mind on that. And then we just small talked, and I had noticed a person pull up in front of the store, and I commented to the clerk about how I thought it was weird that he just sat staring into the store, in particular staring at me.
So I'm gonna fast forward to that part in the video here. You're still over there for everybody watching. Brian is over there on the left hand side of the store getting his coffee. I'm going to fast forward to a different timestamp here. It's now 12:07. You're going to watch this car leave that spot. It just left that spot now, and you're going to see the aggressor, for lack of a better term, come up. Now Brian has his coffee here. He's walking with his wife past the front doors. And he's going to pay. Now, watch what happens behind him, right under that big white sign right there. And guys, hit the thumbs up button right now to support Brian having the courage to do this. Now, you see this vehicle pull in, guys. I'm going to pause it right here. This vehicle pulls in. In fact, I don't even need to pause it. We can just continue talking while this vehicle is playing. Guys, this is real time right now as this vehicle pulls in. And that vehicle, as we later find out, belongs to a guy named Chase McLean. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, Brian, you're coming over to the door and you're watching what happens. Tell us what you're doing and what's going through your mind.
Well, as he pulls into the parking spot, I'm over at the cash register talking small talk with the clerk on duty. And his name was Christopher. And so I'm just small talking with him about what we did, and telling him about how my son had suggested I stop by and grab a Redbox movie. And at that point, I had mentioned how it was strange that person pulled up in front of the store and just sat there. And he says, yeah, it's probably because the young girls that's usually working here is not here, and he doesn't want to come in and look at my ugly face. And so I go over to the door, and I kind of felt like the guy had something going on with him. He was, for the lack of better terminology, he was mean mugging me through the door. So I waited until he backed away and left. And as he's leaving, I go out the door at that point.
Now, we're back to the security footage. You're basically looking around the parking lot, making sure that he's not there, kind of clearing the way, looking around. And you walk over to where the Redbox movie is. Now, I'm going to pull up another security camera here that shows what happens immediately as, again, timestamp 12:12 at the bottom here. Let's pull up another security footage down here, 12:11. This is just before that situation. You can see this red truck clearly doing something. What do you think that he's doing here, Brian?
At that point, I'm pretty positive at that point that he has some kind of ill intent for me, because he drives down towards an exit of the parking lot and he almost collides with a small vehicle that's pulling into the gas pumps. And that led me to believe that the reason why that took place was because he was watching me as opposed to watching where he was driving.
So as he comes around and he almost clips this vehicle, clearly I would say that's erratic behavior. Right off the bat, we're saying that is red flag warning sign. And guys, that's one of the things that I want people at home. That's one of the reasons that we're going over this, guys, is because I want you to have situational awareness in everything that you do. The reason that Brian was kind of locked onto this red truck wasn't because of some, previous incident. Brian had never seen this guy before in his life. It's because a situation was occurring that was out of the norm. And if you agree that we need to have situational awareness in every scenario we go through, hit the thumbs up button on social media right now. Chuck Snyder says, thanks for the courage to share your story. It's appreciated. John Garcia says, where was this? This was at Circle K in Inverness, Florida. And Alex Malandano says, thanks for your bravery. Melissa Campbell, Julie Bartowski, thanks for joining, guys. So we're going to go back to that, to the footage, to the surveillance footage. And we're going to talk about, what he does from here. Now, keep in mind, guys, it's a little bit difficult for me to show this footage. But basically, we're gonna come around to where Brian and his wife Tammy are walking out of the front door of the Redbox here, and you're gonna see them come out of the front door. Now, you can see up in the top right corner is also the aggressor's car here, following them as they come down. Now, he had just almost clipped. Try to bear with me. He had just almost clipped that vehicle. As he comes around the corner here. That vehicle was on the other side of the gas station. So I'm going to try to play this as close to real time as possible. So he's coming around the gas pumps. He almost clips this vehicle, and he comes around and he circles around the gas pumps. And as he circles around, we're going to change cameras to show you that now he's continuing from the top right. So that's a pretty much seamless transition right there, following Brian and his wife as he's coming out. And we're going to pause this right here as we're coming out. We've got a couple questions to ask. Chris Cassidy says, thanks you for sharing this and making us aware we'll face these days. Alex says, what were you doing before you were at the store?
I had been at a barbecue with family, with kids and grandkids.
And Dalton Pollard says he just seems to like he knew who this was. He looked like he was scared or something. He didn't want to go out the door as he pulled up. I think that that's in reference to you basically standing in the doorway and not going outside. I liken that the fact that you are looking outside to be situational awareness. What do you have to say to the people that are saying that you didn't go outside, not because of situational awareness, but because you knew who that was?
No, that's absolutely untrue. I didn't go outside because I knew who it was or any other reason. I didn't go outside because I was trying to avoid what I felt the vibe of. And the vibe I felt is that Chase was not, being a rational person. The looks that he was giving myself and just his demeanor was setting up all kinds of red flags. So it was probably best that I wait and delay going out the door. That's why you see me go to the door, push the door open slowly and watch in hopes that Chase would leave the store. He went towards an exit and, totally could have just left the parking lot, but chose not to, rounding around the pumps and nearly striking that small silver car that come pulling in there. Like I said, I was just in hopes that he would leave because the vibe I picked up from him and the whole situational awareness thing, it's paramount. I mean, when he pulled in the parking lot, I looked out the door. I had never seen this man in my life before. I had no idea who he was. Never seen him before in my life.
Absolutely. So now you're standing in front of the red box. It's 12/12/32. Paula Rogers says, I heard that Brian had been at Griff's prior to this incident and Chase followed him because he did not pay for his tab. No truth in this. No, we've already established that Brian was at a barbecue with his family, and definitely no truth to that. That rumor is now debunked. Lucas Van Gorder, thanks for joining. So as we're watching Brian in real time, Brian's kind of keeping an eye out, and I'm going to switch over to the camera that shows what Brian is looking at. So I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. Chase continues down the parking lot, and he sits his vehicle at the edge of the parking lot, just right here at the edge. And he just sits there, and we're watching in real time, guys. So those of you who are at home watching what we're seeing here, Chase is sitting at the end of the parking lot. He has every opportunity to leave. He has every opportunity to go home. He has every opportunity to be out of here. Felton Smith, thanks for joining. Dalton Parlett says it's just suspicious the way he's acting when the truck pulled up. This whole thing is very odd, Dalton. And Chase is still sitting there. Now watch this car come in. This car had to go way around Chase because Chase was almost out in the middle of the road with his truck. And we're not sure exactly what he's doing, but again, take a look at what Brian is doing in this situation here. Brian is clearly keeping an eye on the situation, clearly looking around, making sure, trying to understand exactly what this guy is doing. At the end of the parking lot. At one point, you can see Brian, again, this is real time, so imagine Chase sitting at the end of the parking lot at the same time as Brian is standing here. And guys, right now, if you are upset that you can be attacked when you're at a red box, hit the anger button right now. It's definitely something that we need to do. Marissa Lynn, you've just been banned. Anybody that, I'm going to pause this real quick, okay, guys? I'm going to pause this real quick. I want to jump in, and I want to kind of talk to you guys in a real way. We're seeing people jump in on this Facebook feed and they're calling Brian a liar and saying that things are not true. I'm going to be very clear. The people that are friends with Chase McClellan, they've got two choices to react with this. They can either chalk this up to bad behavior, and if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and try to go about our lives living in a better, safer place. Or we can do what a lot of the commenters are doing right now, which is coming in and being angry, being threatening. Obviously, that is not helping any situation and speaks volumes to the types of people that are involved in this incident. So that's really a scolding to anybody that is coming in aggressively. There's just not a need for that right now. So going back to being in front of this red box again, we've got Chase basically down in the corner. Brian, you're looking at the red box. What's going through your head as you're looking across? Right now, you're looking across to Chase sitting at the end of the driveway. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, absolutely. Actually, I'd like to touch back on some of those comments. I'm not going to go derogatory or nothing, but The sheriff's department thoroughly investigated my every move that night, from time frame to time frame to time frame. So anyone who actually thinks that I was able to stop by Griff's Bar and have some drinks and not pay my tab, I'm not 100% sure, but I would figure that Griff's Bar would have video surveillance. Not once would I ever be seen on video surveillance at Griff's Bar. Absolutely didn't stop there.
Yeah,
and like I said, the sheriff's department did a very thorough investigation. They checked out every one of my alibis as to my whereabouts, and I would venture to say they tracked my route from where I told them I went, from leaving this barbecue to stopping by my son's house in Beverly Hills. And I'm sure there's banks and supermarkets along that way. They was easily able to track my route. So just so any of you naysayers want to say that that's the case, it absolutely is untrue, unfounded, and it was thoroughly investigated.
And Carissa Gandy has a good point. She says, he's looking around because there's some guy driving around like a crazy person. When I go out, I'm watching everything because you never know who people are or what they're thinking. I completely agree. And if you agree that when we see behavior like this red truck almost clipping a beige car after driving around sketchy, give us a thumbs up right now if you believe that you would have been on edge in this situation as well. So again, give us a thumbs up right now. This is a difficult thing. We're going to be getting a lot of backlash from Chase's supporters, but at the end of the day, we are compelled to help America be safe and understand exactly what they could be getting into just by going to Redbox. So again, Brian, Chase drives by you. Now, again, Chase is over, parked at the end of the road here. He drives his truck up. He's parked at the end of the road here. The car drives by, and then we're just gonna basically do a play-by-play here. Chase is still at the end of the parking lot. He's been there for what was it? 3 minutes? We did the math on.
I believe it was 3 minutes.
3 minutes. And we could stop and we could do dead air for 3 minutes, but that's a significant time. Then Chase throws his vehicle in reverse. What's happening here, Brian?
Due to all the red flags that was popping up and the way he was behaving and acting sketchy, I'm sorry, but my situational awareness is paramount to me. I keep an eye on everything. I'm always watching my back. I didn't just have my own back to watch for. I had my wife with me. She's 5'3", 130 pounds. I had her to be concerned with her safety as well. So I was keeping a close eye on him because of what he did. When he left initially, when he had to swerve around the small car, he was going for an exit. He should have just left that exit, you know what I'm saying? But no, he circled back around and then followed the wife and I slowly up the sidewalk as we walked to the Redbox. Absolutely, I'm not taking my eye off of him. You don't never know what people's intentions are this day. So I wasn't taking my eye off of him. I followed him all the way until he went out to that exit and sat at that exit.
So now he pulls into this parking space, aggressively throws his truck in park, aggressively. What's going on now?
The wife is very, very nervous, and I'm trying to avoid making any kind of eye contact with him now at that point because he has backed back up and released all doubt that he was up to no good and he had no good intentions towards myself. I'm sure it wasn't my wife he was after. It was me he was after. But still yet, I had the wife to be concerned with her safety as well. And so when he backed back up, I asked the wife, just don't make eye contact with him. But of course, she was very nervous, and so she was watching him. And at the point of him pulling back into that parking spot, he had his cell phone up in our direction, and the wife believed him to be taking pictures of us. And so I said, well, just don't look at him. Don't pay him no attention. And she's like, no, honey, really, I believe he's either taking pictures of us or he's videotaping us. At that point, I turned and I looked at in his direction, and he said some expletives to me that I won't repeat here on live feed as to summarize, he said, "Do you want something, MFer?" And I said, "No, do you?" And he said, "I'm going to whip this MFer's ass."
Now, I'm going to jump in there, Brian. I want to ask you about your health of the situation, right? You know, we're looking at you in front of the red box with your wife and things like that. You know, tell us a little bit about, you know, your health and your well-being at that point in time.
Absolutely. At that time, I had lost weight. I was sick. I won't go into details, but I did have surgery on my backside. And I just underwent having surgery and had 8 stitches in my rear. And so I wasn't up to trying to fight somebody on the curb at a convenience store. Absolutely wasn't interested in that at all. And at that point, I tried advising Mr. McLean that I was armed and to back away, to leave me alone. And he made some kind of a derogatory statement to me and then come flying out of his truck. And at that point, I lifted my shirt, figuring that maybe he just thought I was bluffing him and telling him that I was armed. And so I lifted my shirt to confirm to him and to hopefully, you know, redirect that by confirming I had a firearm on me, that he would.
Can you also show them the shirt that you were wearing that night?
Yeah.
Oops, I'm gonna pull up your feed individual here. Give me 1 second. Guys, this is the shirt that Brian was wearing. Florida Gun Supply, which is a shirt that Chase would have been recognized. I believe that Chase also took our concealed carry class as well. So we're going to get back to where Chase is sitting in his vehicle, you know, potentially video recording or anything like that, throwing his hands in the air aggressively. Let's take a look at what happens next, Brian. Walk through it real quick. And Los Padermo says, so what happened in this case was going on, just joining, sorry, feel lost. Basically, one of our supporters is at a gas station and gets randomly attacked by a stranger. Chase gets out of his vehicle. Let's take a look what happens here. So Chase is, again, in his vehicle. He reaches for something. And guys, if you are angry about the random act of violence, hit the anger button right now. I want to see it all across social medias. Here we go. He jumps out of his vehicle and he comes running up. Now, as he's coming up, I'm gonna show that again. As he jumps out of his vehicle, watch the way that his door slams, guys. This is a very aggressive, violent, angry aggression towards Brian and his wife. Brian, what was going through your mind as he jumps out of the vehicle here?
I was really hoping that what I told him, you know, that I was armed and then revealed that I was armed. I was absolutely hoping that would deter him. I was not looking for a Saturday night fight whatsoever. I was advised by the surgeon that I had surgery not to exceed picking up 10 pounds of weight or I'd find myself back on the operating table. And then, like I said, another thing too, you know, I didn't just have my safety to be concerned with. I had my wife's safety as well. And the fact that I know had me and Chase wound up into a physical confrontation, I know that my wife would have involved herself, and there's no telling what would have happened to her. You know, according to the Sheriff's Department's own investigation, Chase McLean was 6'2", 270. I was sick and was rapidly losing weight due to my illness. I was down to 170 pounds, and Chase had me by 100 pounds. And I was injured, had 8 stitches in my backside. I wasn't trying to fight Chase. I wanted him to just get back in his truck and go on about his way. That's what I really wanted him to do.
Now, I'm gonna respond to some of these questions here. Jacob Mavani says, Andy, would you recommend advising someone that you're armed before a physical aggression action is made? The last thing that any gun owner wants to do, and you'll hear from Brian later on tonight, is deal with the emotional consequence of needing to use a firearm to defend human life. That's the very last resort. We don't ever want to draw and fire a handgun unless we have no other options. And so, Jacob, I would definitely use my voice before I used my gun if I had the time do that. Now, Brian, we're going to go back to the security footage, and we're going to get to basically the moments just before what happens here. So you're at the red box. Chase is parked now. You're turning your head, and he starts to get out of his vehicle. Guys, I want you to show this. This is first of all, I'm gonna jump back to Brian and I for 1 second and mention one thing. This is a very difficult thing for Brian to watch. We've had to watch this footage for the last 3 hours straight in order to set up for tonight's live show. And it's nothing anybody ever wants to do, to use this firearm. So once again, I want to see some hearts all across Facebook in support of Brian Sharp, here. David Garvey says, curious to know if Chase was under the influence of anything. I think that we'll answer those questions a little bit later on at the end of basically what we're about to see. But right now, I want to see hearts for Brian. Brian, you see all the love people are pouring out for you right now.
Absolutely.
This is a difficult thing to do, and people definitely have your back. So we're going to go back, and Brian, walk us through what happens next.
All right. As we're standing there looking for this Magnificent Seven, I'll also not forget that movie, because that movie is why I was at the red box. So as I'm at the red box looking for the Magnificent Seven, and Chase pulls up into that parking spot, and like I said, the wife said that it appeared he was taking photographs of us, or he was either videotaping us. And when we had the exchange of words, as he come out of the truck at me, I squared up to him, because I wasn't going to give him the advantage of me being at the red box with my back to him looking for a movie.
And it looks like you were trying to get away from your wife as well. You're trying to clear some distance.
Right. I wanted to make sure that there was at least a buffer between myself and my wife in the event that he got a hold of me and latched onto me. And I will say this too. Everybody that's got doubt in Andy's method and his training ability really ought to come down and take a look at what he's got to offer before you decide to naysay Andy's method and Andy's training abilities, because I made a huge mistake that night, a very big mistake that night, and that was not carrying one in the chamber. The whole reason why Chase was able to close the distance on me that he was because I didn't carry one into the chamber, folks, because I have a high regard for life. Okay, I don't think just because you make poor choices you deserve to die and or be injured. So I didn't carry one into the chamber that night, and I made a huge mistake. That's why he was able to get to me and throw me into the red box and the display next to the red box. Had I had one in the chamber, it would have been a different story.
So here we go. Chase is again getting out of his vehicle, and we're gonna play it from here. Basically, you're turning, you're looking. Chase is in the parking lot. He throws his door open, and jumps out of the vehicle as you're kind of just staying over by your wife now. We're going to play this almost frame by frame. We really want you guys to see this. Apollo Hester says, always carry one in the chamber.
Absolutely, Apollo. That was a mistake, and a one-time mistake. It's not ever going to happen again.
So now you can see Chase coming at you with his arms raised. You can see the size difference between you and he, and we're going to keep playing this as we go.
Absolutely, you can see the size difference for sure. I'm standing on a 6-inch, at least a 5 or 6 inch curb, maybe even higher than that, and you can clearly see the body mass size difference. And not only that, but let's not forget that I had just had surgery, and the last thing I wanted to do was get operated on again. If you knew the actual nature of my surgery, you would 100% agree with the fact that you wouldn't want to go through what I went through again.
Exactly. So we're gonna rewind it just a little bit where he gets out of his car. We're gonna actually play this scenario here, guys. We're gonna play the scenario. Here we go. He comes up and he throws you violently back into that red box. He throws you violently. I'm going to play that again. We're going to play that a couple of times. I want you guys to see the hit. Okay, comes up, throws you violently. Now, you don't even have your gun unholstered until he touches you. It's really the force of impact that is, that is bringing the gun out. Here we go here. Greg Andrews, again, asking if you know Chase.
Absolutely not, Mr. Andrews. I never seen Chase before in my life until that night.
So again, Chase comes up, and Brian, I'm going to play literally frame by frame after he pushes you, and I want you to explain exactly what you had to do. So you've got your hand on your pistol here, and you don't draw it until there's physical impact. There it's drawn. Now what happens?
At that point, I had to, once the impact took place, I had to draw, chamber around, and then I point shot, of course, as you can see per the video. I didn't aim fire, I point shot fired, and I was cornered. Like I said, Chase left me no option, I was cornered between the red box and the building and that bench that's there in the screenshot, as you can see. And big mistake on my part with not carrying chambered, because I mean it could have actually went horribly wrong for me by not having one chambered.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the whole thing, is that you're learning from this experience, and guys, I cannot reiterate, right? We've got a guy in here that's open-minded, and he said, I've known Chase for 10 years. This is weird. We agree, guys. I mean, we agree. This is very odd behavior. This is very unusual behavior, and it's behavior that you need to understand that you may come across someday. That's why we're showing this video. That's why we're going into this conversation. That's why a year later, we have 514 people on Facebook alone watching this video, not so that we can talk about how awesome this situation was, but how it sucked and how it's going to have to suck for you and I if we have to do it again. And I want you guys to do something in response to this video. I want you to get armed if you don't have a gun. I want you to get trained the right way. And I want you to carry as often as you possibly can. You must carry daily, because that is the solution to violent crime. We never know when violence is going to come, and we never know if we're just at the red box getting a DVD or if we're sitting at home in our living room. And if you agree with me, hit the thumbs up button all across social media, because this is what we are trying to stop right here. Let's play this again. Once again, Brian is standing here in front of the red box and eyeing Chase. We're going to play this through to its entirety. Brian, walk us through.
All right. As Chase is approaching me, I don't recall exactly what words he was saying to me. I mean, my adrenaline was rushing so bad, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to hand-to-hand fight Chase. And so a lot of that without watching the video, and I want to touch on what Andy said. Absolutely, watching this video it doesn't do anything for me. It kind of, the whole point in bringing this video to the public's eye was to put closure on this for me. I've lived in this community since 1983. I got 4 brothers, great mother and father. My mom and dad's going to be married come April, 55 years. I had good, solid upbringing. I made poor choices. I made a poor choice similar to like Chase, Mr. McLean made. I don't hate Mr. McLean. I don't have any ill will towards Mr. McLean whatsoever. In fact, I hope that getting to see this for all of Chase McLean's people, it'll also help put some closure behind the fact that Mr. McLean made a poor choice that night. And that's what we can take away from it. We can take away from that he made a poor choice, and we can move on and learn from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, hit the thumbs up button right now for Brian, and hit the thumbs up button for our country, because what we want to do together is stand up and unite so that we can stop violent crime from happening all across this country. Right now, what's happening in our homes and in our businesses is not acceptable, and we can stand up together and put an end to it if we do it together, if we come together and we stop squabbling about stupid things that don't matter, if we come together and we stop arguing in the middle of a gas station, if we stop road rage and any sorts of violent actions against each other, we can come together and make this country a country worth living in, a country worth being together in, a country that we are able to come together and stand up and believe in, and we can rock it and make it a safer place to live. Guys, I hit the wrong button there with the audio. Here we go. We're going to look one more time to the last portion of this video, which is basically where where again one last time we're just going to show this entire incident in its entirety. Take a look.
I'd also like to interject the fact that I've never found out why Chase selected, me, or if he mistook me for someone else. I hear a lot of talk, back talk about how I had stopped in that bar and didn't pay my tab. And of course, that absolutely is untrue, unfounded, and thoroughly investigated, like I said, by the Sheriff's Department here in Citrus County. But I honestly would like to know if, in fact, Mr. McLean can remember. Per the investigation, only per the investigation do I know the details that Mr. McLean's blood alcohol content that night was 230, that he had barbiturates in his system, and that there was drug paraphernalia found in Mr. McLean's truck. Now, I'm a non-judgmental person. Almost everybody that I know will tell you that I'm an easy, laid-back kind of guy. I don't judge people. I don't try to pretend to be better than nobody at all. I actually would love to know what Mr. McLean thought was going on, or who I was, if it was a case of mistaken identity. I think that would, shed a little light on at least why I know it happened.
Brian, there's some rumors going around that you stopped at the Griff's bar and you didn't pay your tab. What are the chances that somebody else was at the Griff's bar and didn't pay their tab, and you got the brunt of this drunken action?
Exactly right, Andy. I'm 6'1". I've gained some of my weight back. I'm 6'1", 185 pounds. I got a shaved head, a goatee, and tattoos on my arms. I want one person in this live feed to tell me that in your travels throughout your day that you can go anywhere and not see a tall, slim white man with a shaved head, a goatee, and tattoos on his arms. I mean, I'm probably a very, very common-looking person. And it's quite possible that Mr. McLean had me completely confused with someone else. I'm not ruling that out. But I absolutely didn't know Mr. McLean before that night. And like I said, I would like to re-say that I have no ill will towards Mr. McLean whatsoever. In fact, the night of the shooting, when I finally left the parking lot of the Circle K at 5 a.m. after being investigated, the initial investigation on the scene, being interrogated pretty much, being questioned, being interviewed for over 4 hours. One of the first things that I said when I got home, I had told my dad that I had to use my firearm in self-defense and that I had shot a man outside the convenience store up in town. And he said, "Do you know his name?" I said, "No, Dad, I don't know his name." He says, "Well, I'll pray for him anyway."
Absolutely. Guys, I'm sorry. I don't know where the music... Every time I flip to the scene where it's Brian and Andy, music starts playing. I don't know where it's coming from, but I apologize. I just found it on a separate pair of headphones. It wasn't feeding through here. But guys, this is the kind of portion of the show that, feel free to, send any questions that you want to Brian. He's watching this as we're going. Kayla says, my understanding was that he wasn't drunk or under the influence as stated by his wife. What comment do you have about that?
That's absolutely untrue, young lady, because according to the report that I got from the Sheriff's Department, his blood alcohol content was 230. And he had barbiturates in his system, and he had possession of barbiturates that absolutely was not prescribed to him.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody here is saying that Chase is a bad person. We're not saying that Chase is a horrible human. We're saying that it was a mistake that was made. If you attack somebody who is armed, there is a high likelihood that you're going to be shot. And our goal is to not only stop incidents like this from happening, but to stop violent crime of any sort. And that is why we are calling you to take action. Not to just watch a video at home on Facebook, but to unite, to get armed, get trained, and carry daily, because that is the only solution to violent crime. If every person in America knew that if they attacked somebody, that there's a very high likelihood of getting shot by that person, we would see a drastic decrease in violent crime across the country. And that's what this video is here to be. George McClellan says, seriously, what do you think would have happened to you if you did this? And Jacob Nodai says, Andy, can you show him? Andy, can we see the entire part of the video, including a minute of the aftermath? What did Chase do after being shot? Did he drive away, attack him, drop? Did Brian drive away, call the cops? What happened? Okay, we're going to go ahead and answer that for you, just to show you what happened. Brian was in an adrenaline state of mind. I believe he followed after Chase's car to get the license plate as well as he could.
Well, actually, after I shot Mr. McLean, and he went around to the passenger side of his truck, and he said, I got something for you, MFer, and he went around to the passenger side of his truck, and I told him, I said, look, man, don't open the door of that truck, and I thank God, and I hope that Mr. McLean thanks God that the door was locked, because he definitely pulled on the door handle, and the door was locked, and he went back around to the driver's side of the truck and fled the parking lot. I follow him out, and a lot of people's like, going to say, oh, look, he chased him. He was chasing him. I wasn't absolutely chasing him at all. I was actually trying to get a tag number, but you probably would never understand the experience unless this happened to you, and I hope it don't. God forbid nobody ever has to stop for a cup of coffee and a Redbox movie and have to experience what I experienced. But your adrenaline is pumping so hard that if it was just a two-letter license plate, I wouldn't have remembered it. But that was my attempt on following him out, was to try to get a tag number off his truck.
Brian, I don't actually have the footage. For some reason, it didn't copy over. It's just a technical issue. There is footage, but maybe what I'll do is I'll re-edit the video. But here we are, Ryan in front of the red box. I will not hit play. I'm just going to let this play. Paul Jones says, please show the whole video. Alex Williams says, non-lethal defense, defensive shot. Good job.
Well, I know a lot of people's probably going to want to see the entire video from the point of me and the wife pulling into the parking lot to the end. We're talking that happened at midnight. I never left that parking lot, people, until almost 5 a.m. that morning. You don't want to sit and watch food and drinks and chips sitting on the shelves, because that's a lot of what you're going to see. Andy has done an excellent job, along with Forrest, of retrieving the pertinent parts of this video. And I know some people saying, oh, well, it's coming from your perspective, that's the pertinent part. No, it's the part that you need to see that shows exactly what went down. You don't want to sit and watch from 4 minutes after midnight until 5 a.m. of what took place there, because it's going to be a lot of dead time. You're going to be seeing snacks and chips and sodas sitting on shelves. There's absolutely nothing going on. The guys here at Florida Gun Supply did an absolute excellent job on getting the footage that was pertinent to telling the story. I'm very satisfied with their accomplishment, and any questions that anybody has, I'm more than willing to answer your questions, including people that's pulling for Chase's side and feeling that Chase didn't do what he did to deserve to be shot.
There's a big difference, though, between having honest debate and conversation, Brian, and what we're seeing on most of the McClellan side. How many comments have we had to ban tonight?
6.
6 separate people that we've had to ban tonight for being aggressively rude and angry. That's not the way to present this. There's no benefit to being angry on both sides. What we can do is we can understand that we live in a world that is full of chaos and that we need to be vigilant and protected. Chris again, he says, most people who have a vengeance or want to actually hurt someone, they usually shoot someone more than once. Brian only shot once because his goal wasn't to kill anybody. It was just to stop a threat between him and his wife. Another guy.
That's absolutely right too, Miss Chris. That night that it happened, I absolutely shot Mr. McLean once, just like I had hoped by showing him or telling him I had my firearm, and then showing him I had my firearm. Those was all preventive measures to avoid what it inevitably did happen. And the whole reason for just the one shot was I didn't intend to kill Mr. McLean. I didn't want to kill Mr. McLean. I was absolutely 100% trying to avoid the confrontation from the get-go.
We had a comment here from Los Perdermo. What gun did you have at the time? I'm glad you and your wife are safe. It could have been a lot worse if you had not had a gun. So what gun? There's a lot of comments coming through about what gun you used.
Everybody asked that question. It's actually the same firearm that I carry still to this day. It is a Taurus PT 809C.
Where'd you buy it? Did you buy it from us?
I did buy it from Florida Gun Supply.
Taurus is a wonderful gun. I don't have any. You know, a lot of people think Taurus are horrible guns. Brian, I'd say that gun, you know, it saved your life.
Absolutely. A lot of times people they knock a lot of guns. Now I'm just gonna have to go ahead and say it. I don't care for high points. You know, unless you need a canoe anchor or something, I don't care. Yeah, something to hang pictures on the wall. I don't care for high points. Will they be suitable to defend your life? Yes. But do you absolutely want to put your life in the hands of a high point? I wouldn't.
Brian, Alex Sazinski says, I'm unbiased here. I'm glad you're all right and protected yourself, but I think that you may have been able to aim and hold him at gunpoint until he took another step forward. Had he been continually attacking you, yes, by all means, protect you and your wife. It just seemed like he pushed you and stepped back to engage you in conversation.
No, actually, Alex, it's a little more different than how you're seeing it when you're going through it. And what I mean by that is that when you're approached by someone as big as Chase is, you know, like I said, he's 6'2", 270. At least that's the stats that the sheriff's department relinquished to me. And when you're cornered and your wife is right nearby, you have more than just what's, you know, at eyesight to be at stake. You know, it wasn't just me and Chase. It was me, Chase, and my wife. And I fully believe had Chase had got me on the ground or was able to incapacitate me, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt my wife would have interjected her physical part of it, and she may have very well been very injured. She's 5'3", 130 pounds. Chase 6'2", 270. So, I mean, you do the math there and understand the fact, too, Mr. Alex, that I told Mr. McLean I had a firearm. I showed Mr. McLean I had a firearm. That didn't deter him. So I absolutely don't agree with you, Mr. Alex. No disrespect, sir. But I don't believe drawing down on him and trying to hold him at bay would until the police arrived. I don't believe that would have been an option, sir.
Brian, a comment says, Brett McFarland says, maybe I missed it, but did Chase make it?
I don't know a whole lot, only just some, you know, third-party hearsay that Mr. McLean has medical issues, but yes, he did make it. To the extent of his medical issues, I don't know because we don't have any mutual friends. I absolutely never seen Mr. McLean. I don't know any of his family to my knowledge, nor even any of his friends. And in fact, I met one of his friends who earlier was, you know, against me, saying that absolutely I was wrong. I met her subsequently at the very Circle K, and she extended her hand to me to tell me that she had said some pretty mean and vile things to me in regards to the shooting that night, and she said she would like to recant, and extended her hand to shake hands with me and tell me that she apologizes for saying the vile things that she said. You know, when it first happened, people stole pictures of my family, my brothers, my kids, my grandkids off of my Facebook, and I was getting some pretty hateful messages sent to me about how, oh, nice looking kids you have, and it'd be a shame to have anything happen to those beautiful grandkids of yours. And absolutely, people, that was uncalled for, unnecessary. I'm hoping that this video tonight on this live broadcast clears it all up, because it shows exactly what went down. It shows exactly the pertinent information that the public needs to know. Like I said, to sit and watch 4 to 5 hours of video surveillance from that night would be absolutely pointless, and you wouldn't come across a better answer or a better idea from watching it. Like I said, Andy and Forrest did an amazing job getting what the public needed to see to prove that, in fact, Mr. McLean did stalk my wife and I. He left the parking lot, headed for an exit, chose not to take that exit, coming back around the parking lot, following us up the sidewalk, staring at me. I don't believe he was staring at my wife. He was staring at me. Then he went to another exit, absolutely could have just drove on and left, and chose not, and backed his truck in, pulling up to the parking spot there next to the red box. So in other words, what I'm leaving in your mind, that's left in my mind, is Chase gave me no alternative. He gave me no option, especially when he shoved me, cornered me into that between that red box and the display and the bench. I was left with no option. It was to defend myself or to not defend myself. And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, it's me and it's my wife's safety that was concerning me. It wasn't no longer whether or not I could talk Mr. McLean out of making the poor choice that he made. At the closure of it, it was my wife and mine's safety, and that's what I chose.
And we're just replaying the incidents here as it goes. We had another comment from somebody that joined late. I think her name was Jenny, and she basically said, why did you just turn around and do that? Obviously, that was not the case. So we're just going to play it from the beginning one more time, as smooth as can be. So Brian here is, Brian basically walks into the Circle K with his wife. They walk in exactly at the timestamp at the bottom, 12:04 a.m. They take a left into the Circle K. They go and they get coffee. 5 or 6 minutes later, they see a red truck pull into a parking spot outside. The timestamp is now 12:08 a.m. And you can see them walk by the door. It's 12:09, 12:10 now as they walk by. Then, as they walk by, somebody pulls up into the space, and that is Chase McLean. Chase sits there staring at your wife and yourself, to the point that even the cashier made a comment to you that this was unusual. You bide your time. You don't go outside. You don't say anything. You don't do anything to engage or instigate. In fact, you're turned around, not making eye contact. He leaves. He goes to leave. That's when you feel like the coast is clear, after having situational awareness and an understanding that it's time to go outside, and you possibly avoided a confrontation. From there, you exit at 12:11 in the morning. This is now a full 7 or 8 minutes from when you got there. You feel safe enough to exit the parking lot. As you exit the parking lot, you are basically coming out the front door.
Yeah, actually, see, I paused there waiting for him to leave, so that there's not even an opportunity for an exchange of words or any more further eye contact between myself and Mr. McLean. Just totally trying to avoid the whole situation.
So again, you know, you're coming out of the front door, and as you're coming around the left-hand side of or the right-hand side of the building, if you're staring at it, Chase is following you and stalking you through the parking lot as he is driving by, and then you will see Chase drive and sit at the end of this parking lot, and we are going to play this in its entirety, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the thumbs up button right now if you are at the edge of your seats for what's going to happen next, but I want you to note that right now he stops at the end of the parking lot. It's 12:12 and 30 seconds, 12:12 and 25 seconds, so 5 seconds ago, he stops at the end of this parking lot. He is halfway almost in the middle of the street, to the point that the car with the headlights that are coming through has to drive very, very, very far around him to avoid hitting him, because he's just kind of haphazardly at the end of the parking lot. We are playing this in real time. You're getting a sense for exactly how long that Chase sat. And guys, while we're watching this, I'm going to rewind it to the point that Chase stopped his vehicle, and I'm going to pause it there, and I'm going to be silent from the minute that he stops his vehicle to the minute that he gets in that parking lot, and you're going to see just how much time has gone by. While I'm silent, please hit the thumbs up button so that I can see that you're still engaged. Take a look. We're going to unpause it in silence. Everybody at home, hit the thumbs up button right now, because it really is an important thing to note that we just sat in silence for almost 3 minutes. That's almost 3 minutes that Chase had the opportunity to leave. He had the opportunity to drive away. He had the opportunity to back out of the situation, and that's not what he chose. Take a look at what Chase unfortunately did choose. Take a look here.
And I'd like to add, too, that a lot of people, like that one comment about why didn't I just back away? I don't know how to exactly say this without making it sound like I wasn't going to budge, but I was stopping for a cup of coffee, folks. I was stopping for a cup of coffee in a Redbox movie. I didn't just leave a bar going to hit another 24-pack and rowdy and amped up. I was stopping for a cup of coffee in a Redbox movie. The wife and I had every right whatsoever to stop and pick up a Redbox movie and a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, absolutely. So take a look at what happens next. Chase is out of the car, and we are over to the third angle here as he gets out of his vehicle, and we will see what happens next. As you can see, Brian is looking at Chase. Don Horton says, is this still live? Yes, Don, it sure is. Jacob Novotny says, Brett McFarland, I love the USCCA. I will always own it when carrying. Richard says, and he does have that right to do. So, guys, listen. Carissa says, my neighbor's house is for sale, and I get weirded out when people park outside and look at their house. I mean, that's the bottom line, guys, is that there are a couple of things at play that protected Brian. Number one, situational awareness.
Absolutely paramount. Always keep your situational awareness on full alert when anytime you are out in the public, because at any given time, for a gas stop, to grab your cigarettes, grab a Redbox movie, you could absolutely be chosen at any given time to be a victim to a criminal, because the criminal is not going to give you a heads up and decide to tell you that they intend to make you a victim. They're just going to make you a victim.
They are going to make you a victim. And if you are not armed and trained, I mean, that's the second thing. First is situational awareness. Second is training. Brian, are there any particular training, courses that you recommend now being part of the Florida Gun Supply team? What's going on?
Absolutely. Like Andy teaches in his class, and people come for the class, there's a portion of the class that says, "Why are you here?" And most people answer that because they see the way the world's turning and that they want to do their part to protect themselves and their family. And like Andy tells them, ask them, will they carry daily? A lot of people say, well, I don't know if I'll carry daily, probably just when I don't feel safe. Well, you know what? I just left a barbecue. I had a full belly of barbecue chicken and baked beans and rolls. I felt perfect. I just wanted a red box movie and a cup of coffee and to go home and lounge. But is that what happened? Absolutely not. I felt absolutely perfect. It was a perfect day. Everything was going perfect until stopping for that cup of coffee and that red box movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Brian, what is the last piece of advice that you would give people? We've got to wrap it up. Stacy Smith, thanks for joining, but we are actually 10 minutes over time here. Stacy Smith, you're late. But tell me, Brian, sum it up for people. What is the bottom line that you have learned? And I want to also know, what is it that you have felt for the last year?
Well, a lot of people don't realize in the beginning when it first happened. I've got plenty of people that can contest to this too that will tell you that I was very uneasy. I didn't sleep for almost 2 days because of having to use my gun in self-defense. A lot of people thinks it's just, draw your gun and shoot somebody and defend yourself, and then life just goes right back to the same old daily grind. Absolutely untrue. It's been a long time coming for this video. I'm very grateful that Andy and Forrest took the time out of their busy schedules to get this video aired tonight, just shortly past the 1 year anniversary of it. And if I could leave anybody with a valuable message here, aside from carry one in the chamber, carry daily. Because at any given time, your day could depend on defending your life or your loved ones' lives from a criminal that's intent on doing you harm or doing your family harm. Get armed, get trained, and carry daily.
Absolutely. That's some great advice, guys. Listen, I want one last chance of thumbs up for Brian Sharp. And I want to tell you guys, one of the best things that I have seen, Brian excel at is our bowling pin shoots every other weekend. Guys, this prepares you for real life in a non-combative and very friendly way. Take a look at the promo before we end. The goal of bowling pin shooting is to create a fun, competitive, and practical shooting experience that will sharpen your handgun skills under pressure. But everybody can expect an event that will improve your skills in the company of fellow shooters who are supportive. We want you to find out more at www.shootingteams.com. Thank you for joining, guys. We have one last word for Brian Sharp before we end the video tonight. Thank you.
In all sincerity, anybody who knows Chase or who's watching this can let Chase know that I absolutely hold no ill regard. I absolutely hope he's doing fine and things are coming back to having a normal life for him. I absolutely mean that with sincerity.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you for coming on and sharing the story, and thanks for being part of the Florida Gun Supply team. Guys, this has been another night of the Florida Gun Supply movement designed to create a better, safer America. I'm Andy with Florida Gun Supply, and thank you for joining. Have a great night.
Carrying a gun is stupid. Why do I need to have a gun with me when I get my pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks? Some people think that they're gonna be the hero of the day when they have their gun on them and someone tries to rob a bank. Some people think that they're safer at the park because they have a gun with them. The truth is, you shouldn't get your concealed carry license.
This is Leslie at Florida Gun Supply, and my mission is help women all over the country protect themselves and their families. There's a brand new opportunity for firearms training. Tell your friends, your mothers, your sisters, share this video. Let's get out there and get armed, get trained, and carry daily.